Welcome to the Make Me Whole podcast. I'm your host, Josette Rosado, and it's time to talk getting past what's difficult, trusting our own abilities to do more, and keeping it that way. I love to take my time when I'm looking up research for the things that I've been talking about, and this topic of failure is one that I have spoken to so many adults in my life about. The fear of not being enough to conquer small and big tasks. We've all been through it, and a lot of times we don't exactly know where it comes from. Rachel Hollis, lover or hater, has a lot of conversations about this very specific topic, and pretty much says that our fear of failure lies in the fear of losing security, love, or our pride. So with love, it seems as if we want to be sure to always receive that the people closest to us are happy with us. And if they're not, it might mean that we did something wrong. When it comes to security, we pretty much go down that rabbit hole of what did I do wrong? What did this just ruin? How have I broken relationships? How will I ever get it back? It's all my fault. And when we're talking about pride, we focus on the idea that not only people around us are rejecting us in some way, or they didn't give us as much attention, but we know that they didn't like something we did and that they didn't give us attention and fixate on that. But really, these anxieties, these fears about failure are deeper. We really need to know what we're afraid of on the inside. The feeling of not enough really oftentimes makes us believe that we're going to fail at it no matter what we try to do. When we're young, we're taught to be quiet, not bold, not speak our minds, stay small, and don't try to make yourself bigger. Be a good girl. I know I heard that multiple times in my life. We're trained to believe that starting with our caregivers and parents, we're not going to be loved if we don't behave in the way that we're supposed to. And if you're not loved by your caregivers or parents, then you don't have the security of a family. And our parents' pride in us oftentimes is a really big deal. But the question becomes, are you afraid now of them, and I put them in quotations, watching you fail? Or is this your ego thinking about what you're afraid of and making stories about and truly haven't taken the time to think through? Because God forbid people see us do something wrong, right? When we're young, we go through these phases of wanting to have this love, security, and pride by looking and acting like everyone else, playing small, like I said before. God, I wish I had the opportunity to talk to my younger self and just tell them that the best people in the world were those who had that confidence to be authentic and themselves. What Rachel Hollis does point out in this idea of fear of failure is that we're all going to fail. I promise you I'm going to explain this a little bit better, but I need you to hear me when I say that we are all going to fail. And coming in with that perception is important for us to try something new. I mean, how many of us are afraid to try something new? Something that could be life-changing, huge. We have this fear that if we do this thing we've never done before, that we're just not going to be good at it. Maybe you are going to try something new and you're going to be horrible on it. You have to focus on the fact that it's something new. If you were good at it, it wouldn't be new to you. You've never done it before. How could you expect that you're going to be perfect at it? How can you compare yourself to other people who you're looking at and might think, they're so good at this? Why can't I get it? Their journey is completely different than yours right now. They may be at their middle when you're at your start. And that's our downfall. We oftentimes compare ourselves to something or someone that's already at their success level. And we assume that we are in the same place as them. And if we're not seeing that success, it's our fault and we've failed. I'm here to tell you that's just crap. That's not the truth at all. I've done 12 episodes now of this podcast. And while I get excited every week that a podcast is uploaded and people listen and subscribe, it took me more than a year to get here. How about more than 20 years to get here, more than 10 years to get here? And I would listen to other podcasts and think about how wonderfully they're received and who's listening and who's successful and who's has 1,000 downloads. I've talked to companies who want to sponsor this podcast and they've said, well, how many downloads do you have? We're looking for podcasts that have 1,000 or more. And I'm thinking, that's not me. But it's not about the numbers. It's not about whether I'm competing with Brene Brown or Mel Robbins or, Rachel Hollis. It's about the message that I want to bring here. And I've had to come to grips with that. Spending less time focusing on the negative that kept me away from trying this new venture. And let me tell you, it has been one of the most humbling and mind-blowing efforts of this life of mine. And it brings me to the question, is it that I am going to suck at doing everything? Or am I going to allow myself to be bad long enough to learn a little bit more every time and get better and better? This is the idea for anything you try in your life. How you parent, how you love people, how you keep your relationships, how you show up in this life. Because if you have the intention to become better, you're going to take those little steps one after the other, and you're going to become better until you get that feedback that you need. Both the good feedback and the bad feedback. This gives us an idea of where we had a point of connection and continue to polish up what we need to. See, we need to be present in this moment and who we are now. Whatever is new and different for me or you, something we've never done before, you have to do it as today's version of yourself. I love that phrase. I love that sentence. You're working with the capacity of the today version of yourself. What that means to me is that you might have not gotten to this before, but it wasn't the time then. The time is now because you're ready for it. You're prepared for it. You're intentional about it. If you are functioning as the newest version of yourself, that means you have to show up as the newest version of yourself in a different way with different ideas and the newest skills that you have available to you. Right now, I just want you to take a second and think about what is keeping you from being who you want to be. Can you remember the first time you ever felt insecure about a choice you were making? I remember I was in 8th grade. This was a long time ago, guys. And I had to make a choice between 3 high schools. And it was my determination that I was going to go to Cardinal Spellman High School in the Bronx It was a boys and girls Catholic school, and it was hard to get into, and I knew that I had the grades. My parents wanted me to go to Mount St. Ursula High School, which was an all-girls school, and because I was going to be put on the honors program. Yeah, I was really smart back then. Still am, but was really smart back then. And I fought my parents tooth and nail about going to Spelman because they had so many questions. Why do you want to go there? Is it because there's boys there? Is it because it's far from our house and you wouldn't have us driving you there? Why do you want to go there? It's going to be hard. There were so many things that made me question, why was it that I wanted to go there? Will I be successful? Am I going to make the grades that I needed to? And it was one of the first times that I ever questioned my belief that I'd be successful. And I truly don't blame my parents for the insecurity that I felt. They were trying to parent. They were trying to ask these questions because they were afraid that my independence meant that I no longer needed them. Especially my dad was a man who took care of his family. He came from Puerto Rico with his mother and younger brother and pretty much worked as soon as he got here to be sure that there was money coming into the house, while my grandmother struggled as a single mom. But while he tried to continue to take care of me, it made me insecure and had me struggle with my independence despite my hard determination to see it through. This negative way of thinking oftentimes kicks in our nervous system and causes us to fear and then stop doing what we need to. But if we go back with the loving support that we know we can give ourselves, we can do what we need to teach ourselves how to stand up, how to come out of hiding. When we see ourselves falling into that insecurity of you're not enough, we need to track back and pretty much ask, what do I need to do? What do I need to hear so that I can move forward? And it changes with everything you try to do. When we understand things through the eyes of an adult and we work through our feelings, being mad, sad, bitter, we can be different. We can wish things to be different. We get into the idea that we are enough. We have enough time. We're not too late to try something new. We're able to give ourselves the permission to move on. The love that you have for other people, you have to give it to yourself. We have to make a decision that we're not going to let things stop us from moving ahead. And honestly, question, what are we willing to let go of so that we can move forward? And when I say that, I'm not talking about giving answers to what we feel we are able to let go of. That's not the question. It's not what you're able to release. It's what you need to release. So ask yourself, when you fear moving forward, when you feel failure, what is it that you need to let go of? Well, there's another one in the books. Thank you so much for listening today, and to all my new and old subscribers. If you'd like to reach out to us, email us at makemewhole@bossesofbliss.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Bosses of Bliss, and on TikTok at Blissful Boss. Remember, complain less and do more. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.